Hey everybody, John the End here, obviously. And before I talk about the very clickbaity title of this video, I want to talk briefly about a story that happened at New Year's. Now, I went out to a friend's place at New Year's. I took transit to get there because New Year's and ice and road checks and so on. So I'm standing on the platform of a elevated train in Vancouver called SkyTrain, which is just our high-flying name for a train. And I'm waiting for the train to arrive, and a woman, I would say expensively and nicely dressed, approaches me and asks me for directions. But I wasn't listening to what she said, and I didn't look directly at her. She asked me, like, how do I get to some train station, or how do I get downtown, or something like that. I didn't pay attention that closely. And I also didn't answer her. Instead of answering, I just turned around, walked 15 or 20 feet away into a different part of the platform, and I presume that she then went and asked somebody else or looked at the sign, which has a transit map. We'll get into why I told you that in just a minute. The title of this video is, it's one of these BuzzFeed, obviously sexist, obviously racist, race baiting type of titles. But I am not asking a gotcha question. I'm not asking some snarky question that's designed to, jab at people. This is actually a legitimate and serious question, even though I don't expect a legitimate or serious answer, not least of which because the viewers on my channel, you guys, are 97% oppressors. But so here's the question, and it's a question for the women folks. In the wake of Harvey Weinstein, in the wake of Me Too, in the new environment in which you see numerous articles written on Huffington Post and other places saying things like women need to stay angry, and female bloggers saying things like they are delighted that men are afraid of them. Make men afraid again, right? Women saying they are perfectly content to sacrifice the careers, the jobs, and the freedom, in the sense of going to prison, of innocent men, if that means what they get is some sort of emotional or cosmic justice, right? We're perfectly willing to sacrifice you to get emotional validation or cosmic justice, whatever you want to call it. So in this environment, the question for women is this. Women, what is the signal that you're going to use? How are you going to convey to men, and in a broad variety of situations, that you are not a threat, that you are not too dangerous to speak to? Now, I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, if you put your resume in and you're trying to get a job, or you respond to a help wanted ad or a career placement ad or something like this, how do you convey to the boss who interviews you, the interviewer or the employer, that you are, if you're brought into that company as a new employee, that you are not a ticking time bomb in that company that's going to destroy the company, or perhaps destroy the life of your supervisor or your employer, or the person who interviewed you, or maybe destroy the lives and the careers of the coworkers that you get placed with to go to work with at your job. How do you want to signal to a prospective employer that you are not an active and extremely dangerous threat to bring into the business? Also, different example, different situation. If you have romantic or sexual intentions or attractions towards a guy, how do you let him know that asking you for your number isn't going to result in him either getting fired, being publicly shamed in media, or going to jail? These are not hyperbolic questions. These are real questions in this new climate. You are going to have to come up with some way to convey that you have good intentions, that you are not too dangerous to talk to, too dangerous to ask out, too dangerous to interview or hire in a company. So this is obviously, a communication problem, right? And it's not a problem that men can solve, because you're going to have to figure out some way to signal that is a reliable signal that men can figure out that you are someone who can be talked to without putting their life, career, family, job, and freedom from going to jail at risk just by saying hello to you. These are women's rules, and men have to adapt to them. So the question remains, how are you going to signal as a woman? How are women going to convey that they are safe to say hello to interview for a job, to hire, to work with, to let into a taxi, and so on. And I don't know the answer, and there might not be one. Anyway, that's my whole question. For anybody who wants to help support this channel, there's a link to Patreon in the low bar. There's a link to PayPal if you don't like Patreon. And as always, thanks very much for watching, and have a lovely, lovely day.